Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today, part of this nutrition series, what I want to talk about is low carb versus high carb dieting for fat loss. And I wanted to tackle this question because I get a lot of emails of people asking me if the better approach would be to do a low carb diet for fat loss, or they see a lot of new research is showing that a higher carb diet is better for fat loss. And to be quite honest with you, a lot of my answers when people are asking me, is this or that better for my diet, or is this that better for me, is always, it depends. And it really does. And the reason why I say that is because every individual is very, very different. A lot of people respond better to different types of diets than others, which is why at the end of the day, the best diet is the one that you can adhere to for the long term, because what you want to do is you want to be able to hold the diet, keep it there until you succeed by losing all the fat that you need, or have a diet that fuels your training and you feel good and you're able to train hard, different things like that. So it's really difficult for me to say, this is a diet for you. You have to follow this. This is why whenever you see diets like in a magazine, or just like a random diet on paper, and you try to follow it, you will typically fall off, because a lot of the times it's just not a diet that is ideal for you. It's hard to stick to, and it's just not a diet for you. It may be good for someone else, they can adhere to it, but if it's not for you, it's just not going to work, and it will fail. But typically you feel like you're the failure, but you're not. It's just not something that is sustainable for you, and you need to find a different approach. So going back to low carb versus high carb dieting, I will tackle each one separately. So we'll start with the low carb. The reason why a lot of people, they right away want to start with low carb dieting is because, for one, think about it. Low carb diet in general eliminates a lot of food groups. It eliminates breads, pastas, high carb, vegetables such as like potatoes, things like that, carrots, higher carb squashes, and also low carb dieting eliminates like higher carb fruits such as bananas, peaches, pears, things like that. And also too, higher carb diets, low carb diets eliminate pretty much a lot of processed foods like, candies, ice creams, breads, muffins, cookies. So of course, the moment that you go on a low carb diet, you are already eliminating this food group. There is no other way around it. So you typically will end up eating more vegetables, lower carbohydrate fruits such as blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, and you just eat a lot of veggies and salads and lean meats, because you are trying to adhere to a lower carb diet. So in the end, a lot of people see scale weight drop very rapidly. And yes, a lot of it is, I'm sure is fat. However, a lot of it is also water. And the reason why is because for every gram of carbohydrate that you eat, you hold on to about 4 grams of water. So what that means is, if you right away are going on a low carb diet, you will lose a lot of water weight. Just the fact that you're reducing drastically your carbohydrate intake. So for example, if I drastically cut my carbohydrates in half, think about how much water I would be losing over time. So on the scale, it could be a ratio of fat and also water loss as well. So it's really hard to determine that unless you take like a more of a specified test for your muscle lean mass. And also, a lot of people go on low carb diets because it just seems like the right thing to do. It's just something a lot of people, they feel like, oh, carbs are bad, carbs make you fat. No, it's not really that the carbs themselves are bad. What it is that carbohydrates take up a lot of calories and they're easier to overconsume. And I say this because if I were to eat let's just say if I ate 3 cups of broccoli, I would be much more full than if I ate 3 cups of ice cream. I could easily eat 3 cups of ice cream and probably want more. I can stomach that. It's fast sugar, it goes through my system quicker, and it doesn't keep you full. There's no fiber, there's no nutrients in ice cream. So obviously I could definitely eat it. However, if I ate 3 cups of broccoli, which would probably be like 3 servings like this, 3 of these, I would be very full. A lot of nutrients in there. The fiber is a lot. It would be a lot of bulk in my stomach, and I probably would stop eating. So if somebody were not counting calories and they're just focusing on a low carb diet, which means they're eating a lot of veggies, a lot of lean meats, a lot of high fibrous fruits, they're just going to be more full faster, which means at the end of the day, they're just fuller for the longer period of time. Hence, they intake less food. Hence, fat loss, because you're burning more than you're intaking, and that always equals fat loss. So it's not that low carb dieting is magic. It's just that there's a lot of factors around low carb dieting that allows one person to see drastic changes. However, if you are a low carb dieter, you will notice that it's very hard to stick to for the long term. If, however, you are training, and the reason why is because low carb dieting is very difficult to obtain when you are training with high intensity, weight training, CrossFit, running, things like that. I am not saying it is not possible. I've seen many people do it, but it is just more difficult because of the energy. The energy does need to come from somewhere else, which typically somebody will increase their fat intake, but that will be for another video. So that is what low carb dieting is. A high carb diet, when people are on a high carb diet, they have to compensate for another macronutrient. And that would be usually their fat sources, because they're both energy sources. So if someone has a high carb diet, they typically have fats on the lower end, because this is only if they're looking for fat loss, because they still need to stay within their calories. High carb diets are easier to stick to because it allows more food options in your diet. You can have more variety of fruits, more variety of grains and vegetables, because the carb contents are higher. And typically too, you just find yourself with a lot more energy. So which means if you're somebody who's training hard, it's just easier to train because you're being fueled with more carbohydrates to burn. However, a high carb diet, one does need to be careful because it's easier to overconsume, because if you're not choosing the right carbohydrates, you may not be full and you may find yourself overeating. So which one is better? Again, it depends. I do understand both sides of it. However, a low carb dieter will be definitely good for somebody if they find themselves responding well to it, meaning that they're losing fat easily, they can stick to it, they're okay limiting different food items. Same goes for the high carb diet. If someone feels better that way and they're losing fat rapidly, there's no reason to choose one or the other. However, I do want to point out that carbs are actually not a necessary macronutrient in your diet, which is actually kind of interesting, right? Because carbs, there is no essential carbs. So going on a low carb diet is not bad, and neither is a high carb diet. There is no essential amount, which is why carbohydrate intake is individualized. You have to know your body, you have to learn your body, you have to understand your lifestyle and determine how much carbohydrates you need. That is why me as a coach to all my clients, not one person is on the same meal plan. I have seen from people who do better on low carbs and some that do better on way high carbs, probably much higher. Some females are eating much higher than males, and it's quite amazing to see, but it is real. And hence the reason why don't be afraid of carbs, but also don't be afraid to lower them either. You do need to listen to your body and also understand how you respond to them. However, at the end of the day, the goal is always to just understand that if you're losing fat, whatever carb amount that you're intaking is good for you, and if you can stick to it, it's good for you. However, if you're binging on carbohydrates because you feel you're not getting enough, if you do well, Monday through Friday, and you binge on the weekends, you need to rearrange your diet, your carbohydrates, whatever it is that you need to fuel yourself and feel good while you're losing fat. So again, low carb versus high carb, there is no right or wrong answer, but there is an individualized intake for each person. And I think it's very, very important for you to find that for yourself for lifelong weight loss and also maintenance once you lose that weight. So if you do have any questions regards to that, you can always email me and I'm more than happy to help you through it. At afit_training@outlook.com, or leave some comments below. I'm more than happy to answer your questions. So I hope this video answered your questions on low carb versus high carb dieting, and I hope you can utilize some of it. Talk to you soon, guys. Bye.